are live. Wait for people to come in. So, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to my amazing panel. I'll introduce you in a minute. Thank you to everybody who's coming in. Hi Gordon, hi Abby, how are you? Luca, Nishat, how are you? Great to have you with us. This is actually, I was just saying to Tad that normally I do this little spiel at the beginning of one of these, which is it'd be so much nicer if we were in a lovely conference room in a 5-star hotel somewhere, but we were, which is so cool. So I don't have to say that anymore, which I'm really pleased about. Because there did come a point over the last 2 years where I thought that was all I was going to be saying for the next 2 years. It is great to welcome you to this session, the best practices of the EuRA Global Quality Seal. Martina, thank you so much. You put this session together to be live in Seville. We're going to run this virtually because it's such a great resource for people to be able to pick up on from the YouTube channel as they go through their certification or recertification. So the point of today's session is to go over the best practices as learned by the people on our fantastic panel, who are Martina Sharvai, our strategic consultant for quality, who I've worked with, I think, since 2008, 2007 on the seal. So thanks.
Yep, right.
Great to see you. Sarah Noel, lovely to see you from TTA in the UK. Thanks for taking part. Stuart McAllister, into relocation in Hungary. Great to see you. Thank you for being with us. Susanna Bourne, Antara's relocation in the sunshine. Very jealous. Lovely to see you, Susanna. Thank you for being here. And AD Hopkins, EER in the Middle East. Fantastic to see you. Thank you so much for joining. Martina, I will hand you the host so that you can control slides. Let me do that quickly. There we go. That's you. I will duck into the background. I was just saying we have had the internet going up and down recently, so in order for that not to be a problem, Martina has the chair. I'll be sitting in the background. If at any point you've got questions or comments you'd like to make, please pop them into the chat box. You can do that by just pressing the chat button that you see at the bottom of the screen. It's easier to do that really than the Q&A, so if you would put them in the chat box, that would be awesome. And the session is being recorded, so as I say, if you have to duck out or there's something you want to go back over, or you realise later on somebody had a really, really interesting point that you're going to implement in your process management, then you can go back over it at any time. So Martina, thank you so much and catch up soon.
Thank you, Dom, for the introduction. And yeah, a warm welcome to the wonderful panel, sharing best practices of the EuRA Global Quality Seal Plus. And I just want to jump in and thank Susanna, Aideen, Stuart, and Sarah for the contribution they have made already, and they will share their experiences and their best practices in a minute with you. So I'd like to start with Susanna. Susanna will talk about her biggest hurdles in implementing the quality management system and how she did overcome those hurdles, what she has improved in the day-to-day business with GQS compared to before without a management system, and she will share some examples of best practices. So Susanna, please go ahead.
Thank you, Martina. Hello all. I just wanted to give you a little quick background. I have been part of the EGQS since 2008. I've been involved in most of the meetings that have been held to put this together, as I'm a firm believer that the EGQS is a fantastic tool, and I think that it does not only a lot for each individual DSB, but also for the industry as a whole. It ensures sort of a standardization across companies and the industry too. So it's something that I always wanted to do, and when Antares was formed in 2010, it was one of the first things I did. So I can't compare a lot, but before and after, because I got into it very quickly. But as I say, I'm a true believer that it's all for the good, and so I will try and share this information with you. Anything that I say now, if I don't give you enough information or you want more, or you want more examples or whatever, you can always feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be very, very happy to share. So one of the things that we must not kid ourselves is that this EGQS takes up a lot of time. We all have 24 hours in a day. We all want 72 hours in a day already without this. So we must know that time is something that it does take a lot of, and so you have to make sure that you're going to do this going in half-heartedly. It's not gonna get there. So for me, the time was something that we knew it was going to take. Maybe it took longer than we really thought it was going to take, but it was something that we were happy to donate that time for this. So we went ahead and did it, whatever it took. We had to invest that time. The other thing for us is that you can go in and put in as much information as you want into the quality seal. You can go down and drill deep as down as you want to, which is all good. We're all, we all strive for excellence, and we all want to do the very, very best. What you need to be aware of is obviously all the policies and everything has to be put down, but be careful not to overdo it. Because obviously then you have to put it all into practice. So you've got to make sure that most of the information, all the information is there, but be careful how far further you want to drill down, because we can always have excess of information. The other thing that I think was maybe something that we didn't think of at the beginning and then got immediately involved, is to ensure from the beginning that any of the stakeholders that are going to be taking part in the EGQS are on board from minute one. Really, everybody has to know what they're doing, what they're going to have to do, and it goes across the whole company. It's the finance department, it's the admin department, it's the operations department, it's management. Everybody that's going to be involved needs to know well in hand that they're going to be taking part in this, and make sure that they're happy to do this. Otherwise, it's kind of not as easy to put together. So that is one of the things that we did. We made sure that everybody that was going to be getting involved in this knew from the beginning the amount of time and what it was going to be used for, and how important it was for us all, and that they were 100% on board with it. So this is something that I think is also good to have an initial meeting with everybody that's going to be taking part, and everybody that's not going to be taking part need to know as well. They can be asked for information, how they do things, etc. Everything into this one document. The periodic review and update is something, again, that you need. I think like everything, you kind of think, okay, so we've got our quality seal now. We need in a year's time, we need to go through it and do another sort of smaller review, etc. And everything kind of gets left to the last minute. I don't know how that happens, but it does. And then you have to catch up with everything that you've been doing, and half of it you kind of tend to forget. So my thing here is make sure that it's not just a document that you get your certificate, put away and bring out again. No, make sure it's a live document. It needs to be a live document. You need to review it, you need to update it, and you need to keep having it as a live document. So I think that is something, again, that maybe the first time it did catch us a little bit out, but it's not going to catch us out again. So that's something that I think it would be good for you to think of.
Yeah, Susanna, that is really interesting, because this catching up and that ongoing process of improving and the further development of your management system, this is really the way to get better and better day by day. And that is the way you're going as a learning organization or to an excellent organization. And therefore, it is so important. Everyone who likes to develop and implement a quality management system and then receives the certificate and then just put it away on a shelf, really, it's not the time. It's not worth doing it. I mean, if you like to do that, use your resources for better things. I mean, go out, whatever. I mean, meet with clients, have a nice dinner, but don't put it in the system. It really doesn't only make sense if you try to, using it, keeping it going, updating, reviewing it, and so on. Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so how has this improved our day-to-day business? It's improved in so many ways. But obviously I'm just going to mention a couple of them. But for example, onboarding of staff. So you onboard staff, you train them, you help them, etc. But then you give them this document with how they follow things, how the whole process is down on paper. It's a document that it's a Bible that they can keep referring to. And so I think it's a great document for newcomers to have, so that they can see how things are structured, how things are done, the processes, what goes here, what goes there, etc. So I think for us, it's a good tool to hand newcomers when they arrive. Then for services and service failures and corrections, again, none of us in this industry have a lot of these, but if you should, it's actually quite a good way, because so you know you've had a service failure or deficiency. So what we do is we take this very seriously. What we do is we get the person who's been involved, or the people that have been involved in the failure, which is not always a failure, but you know, things do happen. And so what we do is we get them to write down exactly what happened as they see it, how they think it can be changed, how, you know, we document, is this something that we need to take into account? Is this a one-off? Is this a third-party issue that has bounced back on us? So we analyze the situation a bit, but we give the person whose file it is the time to sit down and think about, would this be good to give to everybody else? You know, do we need to implement this as a new process, etc. So they write it down. Then we go through it with the team leader. Would normally sit down with them and see if this is something that really needs developing, improving, or is this something, again, one-off? And then we sit down with staff. Generally, if it's something that has changed and we need to document it and we need to change it, then we sit down with the whole department, and the team leader will go through and say, okay, listen guys, we're thinking of doing this differently because this has changed or this has happened or whatever. And so everybody's involved in that problem. It's not a shame. It's not something, you know, you shame the person whose failure it was, but it is something that allows you to work on the weaknesses that you may have, that you haven't been aware of, that are brought out. So that's something that that is very good. Of course, then obviously we need to write to the client or whoever else is the third party involved, and explain why things have happened, how we're changing, and etc. But it really is something that takes up a bit of time, again, because you need to dedicate it the time because of the importance that it is. But again, it's something that is beneficial for everybody in the end. And if it's not just one department, if that has a knock-on effect, I don't know, with billing or whatever, then the financial department or the admin department should also get involved in this service failure. So I think for us, we give it a lot of, you know, the importance that it should have. And then more data. Again, here, everything has to get analyzed, all the department gets analyzed, etc. And I think data nowadays, the more data you have, the more powerful everything is, because you've got a lot of more to work with, no? But before, maybe we didn't pay enough attention to all the data that we actually do collect, because you do collect a lot of data, and you do need to have all sorts of different data. I don't know how much staff on each project, you know, all sorts of different data, how many clients are, I don't know, IT clients, or, you know, there's a lot of data there that you do actually compile and maybe put away. But actually, if you start analyzing all the data that you collect, which is what we have found, it really, I think data is so important nowadays to have all this data. So, so we find that we do have a lot more data to be able to work on. And then the other point that I think is also very important for us is the standardization, because everybody more or less should know, and if not, they can look it up easily, to ensure that there is a quality across the whole company, you know, and I think this document and this seal really helps you with the standardization of everything, of documents, of the way you write things, and the way you communicate things. The whole company's on the singing of the same hymn book. So for us, that's another great thing, for another great point for the EGQS.
Yeah, and Susanna, I think that is an interesting point, because I have very often the discussion with clients who say, well, standardization and everything is so tight and we are not flexible anymore and so on. And that's nothing. I mean, it's not standardization versus flexibility. It's a complete different thing. I mean, processes, to define processes, to standardize processes is fine. And then, yes, be flexible if you have circumstances where the circumstances ask you to be flexible. Yes, please be flexible in that moment. I mean, offers a perfect service for that moment. And then at the end, go back and say, well, was it an exception? Was it just one time, very special situation? Or probably we have to adapt our processes or our standards internally. So that it's what it means to be a learning organization. But standardization is really important to deliver the basic stuff in the same level of quality, but be open for changes. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Some examples for best practices.
So I'll give you a few examples for best practices. And again, everybody has their own way of doing things, and different companies are different sizes, and et cetera, et cetera. But for example, the way we get feedback, we use SurveyMonkey to get feedback. The thing is, there's a couple of things here. The first thing is try and ensure that you get all the questions that you want to ask, so that you can compare year on year, because the first year you think of some, the second year you think, but you need to be able to compare also the same kind of questions. So you do need to give it a bit of time. But SurveyMonkey for us is great. We get customer feedback and client feedback. And then we can use the data, because obviously SurveyMonkey then allows you to collect the data in an Excel form or whatever, and then you can play with the data that you get. No, you can say, okay, it gives you the graphs, it gives you the charts, it gives you all the information. So for us, the way that we get our feedback is like that. We do it through SurveyMonkey, and for us it works really well. I have to say, the first time we did it, maybe we didn't think of everything. As time goes on, we add more questions to it. It can't be top heavy. It can't be too thick, because people don't want to take more than 2 minutes to answer the feedback questionnaire. But for us, it's a very important tool as well to see how, to get a realistic view from somebody that's using your services, to see how they think you're really doing. So for us, that's a great tool of getting the feedback. The management review is probably the one that I like most in a kind of way. It's the one that I use a lot. It has everything. It has everything about everything that has happened in the company. You look back and you think, yeah, COVID. Oh yeah, that was a couple of years ago. Oh, that's why we didn't have so many, I don't know, relocation clients or whatever. But it's a fantastic way to document absolutely everything throughout the whole company of what's going on in it, and what has gone on, and what has changed, what you need to change, and what you're looking at doing, and what, how the, everything from how the economy was going. It's all documented in this document. So I think that's a really good way of doing it. And the thing is, in the manual, it really does give you a big insight on how you have to structure it and everything. So it's all there. You just need to tailor it to your own market. But I think this is a fantastic tool. And in fact, I actually have to say that I started reading through the first years, and it was, it's quite nice. No, you were, I don't know, you were 5 people big. You were 12 people big. This has happened. And actually, it's a lovely way that the story of the company is written. So. And then the documentation of KPIs. Now, this is something I cannot say that I'm very good at. Not that I'm not very good at it. We're very good at it, but I don't have the magic wand to how people document it. The way we do it in our program, in our I don't know, how do you call it, a database or whatever, where we have all the clients and everything. There we have, because ours is not an industry one, we have added the KPIs in. So we tick them all off. It's actually the person that's dealing with the file, ticks all the KPIs off. The person in finance ticks off that the invoices have been sent, etc., etc. And then it's the file manager, it's the team leader that then goes through them all and makes sure that they're all ticked off. And she will then close the file once everything has been, once all the KPIs have been shut. Now, from there, we then have to, because ours is not a system that was made specifically for relocation. So we then have to put all that onto an Excel form, and then we get all the data. So again, it's something that we take seriously. We have to ensure that all the projects are well closed with all the KPIs are met. If not, why not? And then we go through and review it. But we have to pass it from our database to an Excel form. So we're not experts in how to keep KPIs. I don't know if there's anybody else that can help there, but we document it on our system. It's well documented. So that's how we would do it.
Susanna, I'm just interested in, are you measuring more KPIs than asked for in the Global Quality Seal standard? So do you develop your company specific KPIs as well, or you are just measuring the GQS KPIs?
No, we measure, and the unfortunate thing there is that they keep growing. Throughout the years, we keep adding another little KPI, which is, I don't know, but we do it. We try and include all the KPIs in there. So is the project GDPR compliant? Have we replied to emails within 1 week? Have we answered any emergency requests in 4 hours? Have we I don't know, have we sent out the feedback? Have we received the feedback? Has the people involved on the file received the feedback? Has the HR received that feedback? So but they do grow, but it's all good. It's only a tick. It's a tick box, so it's easily done. But I think it's another very important part of the EGQS. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you so much, Susanna, for sharing best practices. I'm sorry.
Yeah, as I say, if anybody needs or wants any extra feedback, I'm sure they can reach out to any of us, and we'll be happy to share.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much. Aideen, good to have you here on the panel. Yeah, you're using the self-assessment questionnaire and said, well, you know, that is really an advantage you see as from your point of view, from your company. And yeah, and then you will talk about efficiently plan, monitor, track, and evaluate all your tasks by using the Kanban board. Wow, that sounds interesting. So share, please, what are you doing here?
Okay, so certainly, look, the self-assessment questionnaire, we very much call that our Bible here, because certainly as we are prepping and getting ready for the auditors to come in and view everything, we will start at the top and work our way down through to identify areas where, particularly when we were starting out. So, you know, if it was things like getting, you know, the website is done, do you have your mission statement already? Your KPIs, are they being tracked? Even particularly things around all the HR, so the training trackers, the offer letters, the KPIs being documented and being reviewed. So we would use the self-assessment questionnaire just to take us through all the actions that we needed to complete in order to be audit ready. But also, I think probably the first time we got the questionnaire, I think maybe the piece where you were able to put in the links to all of those documents probably wasn't there. So that's improved over time as well. So now that we're putting in all our links, so then this document sits open when the auditors come in. And if the auditor says, okay, then I see a sample of, you know, KPI annual review for employees, we're able to go to that section, click on the link and bring them into some samples. So it kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off when you're doing the audit, because I think maybe the very first audit we did, we were probably in and out of the office getting documents here, there and everywhere for them. Then, you know, subsequently, we were able to just click on the link as and when they asked it. There were no delays, no time to get pressured or panicked, and you were able to take them straight into the documents that they were asking for and provide that evidence to them. So it really helped us. But as you can see, it becomes a huge document, you know, putting in all of your examples and your links, but it also helps to calm you and prepare you so that you know you are absolutely ready for the auditor when they arrive.
One question: are you using it internally as well, or your employees are using it internally as like an internal manual or whatever, or you just prepared it in for the external audit?
No, that's what we use for the external audit. So it'll be myself, my team leaders of the various divisions. We kind of create a little bit of a project team. Mm-hmm. So we will sit down once a month, we will review where we are, assign tasks to people. You know, somebody will have responsibility for writing policy. Somebody else might have responsibility for making sure the KPIs are all documented. For, you know, we have trackers for tracking any complaints that we might have received. The invoicing errors, you know, that's one of the KPIs. So making sure that file sampling is taking place every quarter, so that we go in and, you know, look at the complaints we've had, make sure the root cause analysis has been carried out, you know, and that corrective action has been taken where and when necessary. So everybody will get a responsibility and they'll go off and work on that. And then each month then we will sit down and just make sure everything is up to date.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, that leads us directly to your Kanban board.
Yeah, so with the Scrum, I think this just helped us to be super organized, because, you know, everybody's doing their day-to-day job and you are super busy doing that and dealing with all of your clients. You then have to find time to go and prepare and make sure you're ready for the auditors when they arrived. So we just felt we took the Scrum approach, and each sticky note, you know, contained an action. So whether it was, you know, publish the mission statement on the website, write the HR policy, you know, make sure the training tracker is up to date and things like that. So everything started out in a not yet started, you know, string. As it moved across, it went into in progress, and then it went to completed when everything was finished. So as you can see on the slides, the final one is showing all these lovely sticky notes in the completed, so that we knew then we were audit ready. And we would have used our self-assessment questionnaire in conjunction with this Scrum approach as well, to make sure we were absolutely ready. But it just kind of really, I felt it really focused you. And we would have a huddle. So we would come into an office, stand-up meeting, no sitting down or anything like that. And for 10 minutes, it was just running through all of the tasks, and they would move from not started to in progress to completed. And you'd have a great sense as you saw the completed pile, you know, get heavier and heavier.
I really love the idea to doing it really physical, you know, you have really this notes and putting it in. Wow, what a leave of a burden to take a post to the next column just to see progress. Yeah,
it made you feel good. And also during those sessions, you know, they were not long meetings because they're not designed to be, but, you know, a focus in that meeting was where anybody was stuck. So for example, if somebody was, but they were waiting for me to sign off on something before they could go, they could say, right, Aidan, we need your sign off so we can move on, you know, and things like that, or being able to talk with other people if they were maybe struggling on how best to approach the file sampling, for example, you know. And what we would do is each quarter, we would just take X% of completed cases per individual that would work on them. We would look at that, review it. If we found there were 0 problems, that was great. We were satisfied with that internal audit. But if we found there were some problems maybe in some of those case files, then we would say, okay, let's widen our sample. So instead of doing a 5% sample now, we will do a 10% sample to see if those same mistakes were kind of repeating themselves all the time, because then we knew it's okay, we may need to sit down with the individual or with the team to maybe do some training or some, you know, further explanations and things like that to make sure those mistakes aren't happening. So it was great to just have those meetings, but you have to keep them quick. You have to stand up and be really focused. So with this approach, with the stickies, it's literally a verb and an action, you know, and that's it, and away you go.
Yeah, sounds really good and really, you know, practicable, and everyone is able to integrate it in the busy day-to-day work. Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. But I would say as well, sorry, just, you know, for anybody who's approaching this for the first time, is to talk to somebody that has done it, because that's what we found to be definitely most useful. Because, you know, most of my team had never been involved in an audit before, so they were like super nervous before the auditors came and all of that. As it happened, the auditors didn't even speak to them, so you know, they were quite relieved. But I'd come from a banking background, so I was well used to audits. So you know, you just need to speak to people, and even maybe to understand to report, you know, on the KPIs as well, because everybody does something different. So if you can speak to as many people as possible, you'll kind of find the solution that works best for you and your organization. And I'm certainly like Susanna, no problem speaking to anybody, giving them a steer on things, even to share documents. You know, some people had helped us with the templates for the policy documents and things like that. So it was just really great to know there were people out there and that they were willing and able to help.
Absolutely. Aideen, thank you so much for your ideas and sharing your Kanban board and all the other stuff. Stuart, yeah, you have a very good best practice approach to customer and client evaluation. You like to talk about it, and the most important stuff, not only, you know, looking and receiving and collecting all the data, but what are you doing with the results? I mean, that is the most important stuff. And then you talk about your genius business continuity management. So please, it's your state. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martina. Genius. Wow. Okay. We'll see. Okay. First of all, yeah, I'm going to talk about the way that we survey our clients and customers. First of all, in terms of the clients, we never used to have a survey. Honestly speaking, we were in touch with our clients and they're the HR contacts, and we would ask them from time to time, you know, you okay? Everything fine? Are you happy with the service that you're receiving? And of course, then when we started to do the EGQS, by the way, we were first certified in 2014, and we were told, well, oh, you need to have an annual survey, and actually we had complaints from our direct clients. They felt that this was a rather impersonal approach, and that you know, the replacement of a meeting, even if it nowadays perhaps might only be an online meeting, we're being replaced by a rather blunt instrument, a blunt tool of a survey monkey. And of course, so we checked with the auditor and said, well, hang on, we don't want a consequence of the EGQS that we're somehow being perceived, we're having a less personal relationship with our clients. So of course the auditor said, no, that's fine. You can replace the survey for those clients with verbally asking at the meeting. So on a scale of 1 to 5, how would you feel that we're doing? And of course, then we have to minute that note, you know, that minute the meeting. So we send them a formal recognition of like, well, here's the minutes from the meeting. And also we'd like to recognize that thanks, you said that you gave us a 5 out of 5 in terms of how you feel we're doing as a service provider. And then that could go into the results. We do still send the client survey because we don't have a meeting with every single client. We have smaller clients where it doesn't take place. And yes, we use SurveyMonkey as well, as Susanna was saying earlier, for that. And then in terms of customer evaluations, so this is with direct client engagements. Obviously, for the RMCs, they have their own surveys, which we then, of course, receive and we collate as well into the big score. With the customer evaluations, we use a thing called Typeform, and with it, it's nice because it sends out the evaluation in the name, in the email, from the email address of the consultant or consultants that works for them. We have 2 types of evaluation, one being destination service, the other one being immigration compliance, because if we have a client that got both types of service, then they get 2 separate evaluations, one for both of the 2 different consultants they worked with. And then obviously we receive those evaluations back, and they are collated into, we have an Excel spreadsheet which collates everything both individually for each consultant, so that the individual consultants end up with an overall score at the end of the year, and then obviously an overall score for the company that we put together. So we then share that feedback, certainly the customer feedback, during the weekly team meeting. So this is verbally shared, whether it's positive, whether it's not so positive. Obviously, if we do get negative feedback, which we would consider to be a defect or a negative evaluation, then that's dealt with immediately. We don't wait for the weekly team meeting. We would then sit down with the consultant in question, discuss the case with them. We also take negative feedback with an open mind. So we don't necessarily have the immediate assumption that the customer is right, that they have their feedback is valid. However, we also accept that they're feeling the way for a reason, and that there's something there that we may need to adapt to. So a classic example we had a couple of weeks ago was that somebody complained that a lease approval process took too long. Well, that's actually an idiosyncrasy of the client the company that they work for. But it also meant that we didn't communicate perhaps well enough to them that, hey, it's going to be a rather painful 2-week, and yeah, it's a 2-week process for this particular client of approving the lease, and you're going to have to be ready for that. And we're not absolving ourselves of guilt or responsibility, but we're just managing expectations. And so it's very important that when we get feedback like that, we discuss it together. If there are best practices that we can come up with as a result of the feedback that we've received, that's by the way also true with the annual client survey. So if we have the client survey, it comes back and it has negative comments in it, we're definitely going to address those. We would then want to talk to the person that filled out the evaluation and review it with them and say, okay, what are we doing? I mean, this is a surprise. What can we do to improve? And so we would work on that. Feedback obviously is absolutely vital. We're not just going to throw it away just because we've met our KPI targets in terms of survey results. That's great, but also if we're on negative feedback on 2% of cases, right? Well, there's room for improvement. There's something that we can do there, and that's what we do, and we explore that together. Being based in Hungary, I come from a culture where there is a tendency to try to brush things under the carpet a little bit from time to time, and so therefore it can be quite painful particularly in a group format with the rest of the team, to talk about some negative feedback that's come in. But I think it's still better that we work on that we learn together. But we try to do it in an encouraging environment. They're like, okay, this happened, right? We've talked about it. This is what we're going to do, and not to discuss it in an accusatory or in some kind of form of punishment. And sorry,
yes,
go on, Martina.
Yes, Stuart, did you remember one thing that you changed in your internal or external services? So more in your administrative part of your organization or in the service delivery part, based on, one probably encouraging or negative feedback from customers or clients?
Yeah, I mean, as an example, this is more immigration, but for example, timelines. So one of the classic situations is we get complaints that my immigration process took too long. Right. Well, in that case, we've not communicated well enough to the customer what the likely timeline is going to be, which is sort of similar to the lease contract example I gave. So actually what we would then do is we'd go back and train our staff to be more proactive in their communication with the customer. They're like, hey, this is the way it's going to work. It could be, and right now, for example, we are experiencing major delays with the immigration process, I'm sure, as some other countries are as well, because of the massive influx of guests from Ukraine, and even Russia that we're experiencing right now. So we're again having to be more proactively communicative to make sure that, you know, managing expectations. I know it's a cliche within our industry, but it's so true.
It's
and
still very true, and it's so important. Yeah, communication, being proactive. Yeah.
Oh, and another thing is one of the things that concerns me the most is receiving negative feedback and it coming as being a surprise. That should not be the case. So we also have an approach to avoid negative feedback where we ask our consultants to ask during the process, verbally at least once and in writing, how am I doing? Am I okay? Are we all right with the process so far? And there's a psychological trick as well, that when the customer maybe verbally, maybe it's the end of the first day of home search, they go, yeah, everything's going great. I can see that we're going in the right direction. We ask our consultants to send them an email in the evening saying, thank you for confirming we're on the right track. Because if, for example, the customer is, I don't know, British and has difficulty expressing negative emotions, I'm British, so I'm allowed to say that, I think, and so they would be easier for them to write an email if we force them, we push them a little bit by confirming in writing, thank you for confirming you're happy. If there is anything we can do to make things better, it's, you know, now's a good time to say, and then see if they actually say that. So by the end of the process, when they receive that evaluation, if they've repeatedly confirmed that they're happy, it's really hard for them to now say, well, actually, I'm not. I think so. And again, it sounds a little bit like a psychological trick, but it's actually intended that if somebody is shy or unwilling to express negative feedback, then we kind of encourage it, proactively push it, so that if there is something not going the way that they want, we can catch it while there's still time. That's
right, and not at the end or after delivering the services. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you know, as I said, a negative evaluation that's a surprise to the consultant, that's not good. That's you know, like, good. I thought I was doing a good job. Did you ask? Did you check during, you know, so this sort of spot check, health check, you know, whatever, you know, feeling the mood throughout the process, and just physically, just actually asking, you okay? Everything fine? Am I doing a good job here? Our consultants find that quite difficult to do. They find it quite embarrassing, but I said, but surely it's better than having a negative evaluation that you didn't expect at the end of the process. So that's my view, that we also, when we can, we also sometimes have a manager, meaning myself or my general manager, do a quick courtesy call, particularly with VIP cases, during the middle of the casing. Hey, I'm just phoning up. I'm your consultant's manager. I'd just like to check, is everything going okay? Because they may be more comfortable giving the feedback to me or our another manager, rather than, you know, complaining to the consultant. About the consultant. Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, Stuart, thank you. Let's go. Tell us something about your business continuity plan and the testing.
Right. That obviously, when we have a business continuity plan, you think, right, well, how do I manufacture a disaster? And and ironically, we've all had to implement our business continuity plans with the pandemic. So so in a sense, and actually I wrote that into our audit in 2021. I said, you know, well, have you tested your business continuity plan? Oh yeah. and we wrote a report on it that we'd done that. But obviously there are things that our auditor, because we didn't really quite know what to do. He's like, well, how do we test stuff? And she said, well, here's some ideas, and this is, and we just followed the ideas that she gave us. The first one was like, okay, you have to verify the data backup is working. Well, okay, how do I do that? So I had a conversation with our IT supplier and said, right, well, how do I do that? And he said, right, okay, well, that's on an external server. which normally I don't have access to. He will give me temporary access. I will go in on day one. I've got the files open on one side on the server, on the main server, and then I look at the other side and I compare the two. And the backup is from yesterday. It's for overnight, so they should match up. And then what I will do is I'll edit some documents, and I'll even add a couple of dummy documents. I'll just place some there, and then the following day I go back in and check if all those changes are there on the backup as well. And if that all works according to plan, then I write that up in a report in an Excel spreadsheet as a log to say that I've done that. And that's sufficient for our auditor's needs. She just asked that we check that the backup is working once a year on an annual basis, and that we log it, that it's actually there. And it's on a random day, so obviously I don't tell our IT manager that this is going to happen. It just takes place at a random point in time, and yeah, and that's that way I can verify that it's actually done the way it's supposed to be. We then have a test evacuation. That is, so our general manager one random day of the year phones up the office and say there is a bomb in the building or something like that. Clearly everybody knows it's not really true, and then they make an orderly exit from the building. Once they are all outside safely, they phone the manager back and say, we're all outside. Obviously right nowadays, because of flexible working, we usually only have maybe 3 people in the office at any one time. So it's a pretty quick process, but we do that. And then again, we log it. And then finally, again, the third part is, I wouldn't say redundant, but it was originally intended to test whether if our office was no longer available, could we then establish the full operational of the business remotely from home in a very, very short period of time, in terms of recovery of the data from the backup, making sure everybody had VPN access so that they can remotely access everything that they need to access. Well, of course, since the pandemic, that's every day. I mean, everybody has remote access all the time. However, we decided that we should have functionality that would work via mobile phones, so that even if not everybody's in front of a laptop, if we wanted to immediately communicate with everybody, we have both WhatsApp and Teams group chats. We only use these to communicate critical information. We certainly don't share any data or anything relating to customers or clients via these groups. This is just a case of saying, hello, for example, there's going to be a power cut in the office, which there was last week. There was going to be a scheduled power cut, and for a period of time, we would not have access to the main server. So we communicated that via the WhatsApp group. And these are the 3 things that our audit requested. As I said, in addition to that, we've twice implemented the business continuity plan. One was obviously related to COVID. The other one was when a building about 3 doors down from ours caught fire in 2015, I think. It was around the beginning of the time when we first qualified for EGQS, and we had to evacuate the building, and we were out of the building for a couple of days. And the critical thing there is that we just made a report. We logged it. We logged that. Obviously, related to the pandemic, we developed a COVID plan and added that into our quality manual. And we have a policy of how we kept our staff safe, how we work remotely. Thankfully, we didn't implemented remote working in 2019, so it wasn't a great deal of difference. But that was it, basically.
Yes, Stuart, thank you so much. I think the most important point is, if you have a business continuity plan, test it, really just do it, and learn about it, get your experience, not only have a plan in place, but really you have to test it, and it has to be appropriate of the size of your organization. And if you said, Stuart, I mean, disasters like bombing or hopefully not, or a fire, they are happening. I mean, hopefully you'll never get in touch with that, but they are out there, so they might happen, you know. So you have to be prepared, and it's you can sleep very well during the nights. Okay, Sue, thank you so much for your input. Sarah, you like to talk about how do you achieve excellency level and compliance while still being productive and profitable at the same time? And then talk about your share some experience, some examples regarding processes and your process model, and then how do you manage and improve your processes. So thank you so much. It's good to have you here, Sarah, and it's
Thank
up
you,
to
Martina. Thank you. I think, as we've all agreed, the MIM program is a really great framework to work from, and all our staff are MIM trained, and it's the absolute basis. Now, when somebody new joins us, almost the first thing they do is we get them onto the MIM onto the website, and they start training that way. And it also, from the rest of us, it makes sure that we're all constantly up to date with any new changes, any new regulations that come in. So it's really, for us, it's a really good, clear framework to work from. We've identified our core processes, and we've written very clear processes for each one of those. We cover everything. I mean, every job in the office carries a process. So ordering stationery, and opening a bank account, how to conduct a home search, absolutely everything has a process. And then individual companies that we work with, whether they're direct clients or not, in a very clear format, we know who we're contacting, any special detail within that company that we need to, anything that we need to consider really, that's specific to that company. So it's all in our processes. So if anybody ever has any doubts about what they should do, they can go straight to our processes, and the information is there. I know Susanna touched on it, but the really important thing is to make sure everything is kept up to date. And that's certainly something that we're really conscious of. We make sure that the processes are a permanent point in our management meeting agenda. So if there may be nothing to update, but at least it's there, and if there is anything, it's duly noted. And then during our regular staff meetings, we then share the information with the rest of the company. And we also have diarised audits throughout the year, just to make sure that we cover any updates that need to be considered, so that we don't suddenly have a panic just as the auditor's about to knock on our door. So we've been our first audit was in 2016, and I think we've learned so much. Just year after year. You do it for the first time, you think, hooray, we've got it. And then suddenly, before you know it, the 2 years is up and you're doing it again. And also there are updates, and it's no good trying to update everything in a week or two before the auditor arrives, because it's just there isn't time to do it that way.
Yeah, very good. Again, I mean, it's really a continuous improvement process. And it doesn't only mean to update the documentation, but the organizations, the processes, they are changed, they develop, they improve, and documentation is afterwards, because you will, like, store it for the future and make sure you're on an updated version. Yeah, right. Training. I like the link to the MIM training, so how important it is. And you say everyone new in the company has to be part of the MIM training. Yeah, it's a very good decision, because it's a brilliant training for the relocation industry.
It is. I mean, it's very apparent that if somebody's new to the industry, to suddenly throw them in front of a computer and have to work their way through it early on in their probation period, it's quite a lot to ask. But without a doubt, as they actually work on files and do the training in conjunction, it's a really good program for them to follow. I mean, we don't expect them to have covered the whole program, the whole MIM and MIM plus within the first few weeks, but certainly by the time they finish their probation period, we would expect them to have completed the program.
Yeah, very good. Good. Some practical tips for the best practice.
Okay, so our processes are really set up. Our theory is, or our thinking is, that if we were all one day to fall under a bus, somebody else could step in, and with the use of our processes, they could run the files, they could carry out the services, and keep everything going, basically. But the way that needs to happen is that the processes need to be absolutely correct, absolutely up to date, and clear to follow as well, which brings me back to, it's so important to keep everything updated. I mean, even just somebody going on holiday or being out of the office for any reason. So we put as much information as we can into our processes, but we try and keep them clear and to the point, basically. But I think the most important thing is keeping them clear, simple, making sure that each process has its, is really is clear to everybody and accessible to everybody as well, and regularly audited and updated as required.
Yeah, very, very true. So good. How do you manage and improve your processes?
Okay, so we have a very clear template. There's no deviation to that. It's very clear: the name of the company, contact details, who will authorize us, for example, and the information is clear, it's precise. What we also do with our new members of staff when they join us is that we ask them, when they're maybe starting with a file, is that they first of all read the process and make sure they understand and it makes sense to them, and if it doesn't, to say why not, and again we can improve it and amend it. And also, whilst they're working on that file, they follow that process, so that we know it works. So as anybody new joins us, our processes are constantly being reviewed by somebody that, as a working document, that somebody is actually following the process step by step, to make sure it still works. We also have a checklist with each process. I mean, it's a very simple tick list. So, for example, for a home search, it might be receipt of the authorization, and we tick with a day, and then confirming the authorization, again we tick with a date. So that also makes sure that every step is covered, and that there's no chance of error or anybody missing something out or forgetting to do something. Our processes are very much our working documents, and they're the backbone of our delivery, of our service delivery. And I suppose the other thing that we have learned, certainly during 2020, was that all our staff need to be able to carry out all processes, and that was I mean, we had some of our staff were on furlough during the pandemic. I suddenly found myself a bit jack of all trades, just covering all services, and although I knew how they all worked and all functioned, to actually make sure that I delivered the service as was required, that process folder in certain instances, in sort of processes that I hadn't done as a day-to-day job, became my Bible. And so I'd really learned the hands-on, the importance of that document and making sure it was up to date.
Yeah, the pandemic was really a good proof if our system, if our organization is working, or probably we should, going back and reviewing something.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, Good. Sarah, thank you so much. I just want to thank the whole panel, and I have one final question, because in the past we got, very often discussions about, well, now I have the Global Quality Seal. I'm very happy with it, but please give me some tips, some information. How can I promote the Global Quality Seal and use the benefits for my company? Because I have it, and now I like to share it, and I like to do marketing with it, because I have done something very well. I received the Global Quality Seal. I'm a GQS holder. The whole company, all employees are really proud, and now we like to share with our community all over. Do you have some tips, ideas, how people can do that really easily, or how you did it?
Well, I mean, I know for us, I suppose, Susan, we're the only company in the Middle East to have the seal, as far as I'm aware anyway. So certainly when we are recertified and things like that, we will promote it and go out on our social media, put it up there and all of that. But similarly as well, any tenders that you ever receive now, that's one of the questions on a tender. Do you have a qualification, the seal, whether it's ISO, whether it's EuRA and all of that. And, we're able to say yes. And as far as I understand, that will get you points in the whole tender process as well, over and above any of our competitors, especially here in the Middle East, because we'll be the only ones saying yes to that question. So certainly we find it very beneficial from that point.
Very good. So tenders, social media.
Tenders, email on the bottom of your email.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. It gets, everybody sees it. I think it's important to put it there. But social media, and yeah, I agree with you, Eileen. I think that's
good. Did anyone of you just tried to place an article somewhere, in a local or in a country specific paper or journal about relocation or HR management or whatever? Did someone try to do that?
No, but it's a good idea.
It is a good idea.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the education part is really important, because obviously if you have ISO 9001, for example, that's reasonably universally understood within the world of any industry, whereas EuRA Global Quality Seal, and I remember, Martina, you and I looking at you had a spider graph showing that the EuRA Global Quality Seal scope not only covers 100% but also exceeds the expectations of ISO 9001. And obviously we were told from the beginning that we could do both in parallel if we wanted to. We could have the more globally recognized certification at the same time. So yeah, we tend to do a little bit of education. So when in terms of blog posts, and when you've just recertified, it's a good opportunity, as good as an opportunity as any, to write a little pet text that says, hey, in case you don't know, EuRA is our global industry body. It's developed this quality certification, which is designed by the brilliant Martina Chave, and and audited by a choice of two separate globally recognized auditing firms, and then basically just showing that it's all independent. It's not just a case of EuRA internally just patting itself on, it's patting its members on the back, that it's very, very strictly organized. It's as rigidly organized as any ISO certification. So yeah, we feel that somehow we have to say what it means a little bit, and that's fine.
Yeah, okay. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, thank you to the board. If you have any questions to the panel members, or if you have any questions to myself, please feel free to contact me or Dom or one of the panel members if you have further questions. And then I'd like to say thank you very much for your time and for your brilliant input to the best practices of the Global Quality Seal and your global quality management system. And yeah, back to Dominic.
Martina, thank you. Sarah, Susanna, Stuart, Aideen, thank you so much for, first of all, your complete dedication to this project over the years, for being such fantastic advocates for the seal. And, you know, as Stuart said, it's not just Europe had to give members on the back. It's a really great point to make. The other thing that I loved about your discussion today was just how, although the seal is a process management program, which means that processes are aligned, it works individually for you as business owners, and it works specifically to, you know, to work within your business. And also, Sarah, again, thank you. The MIM program, if anybody is interested, I just want to reiterate that program is free at the point of delivery if you want the knowledge. If you then want to go ahead and get certification, we do levy a small charge, but that is changing in 2023. So if you're wondering about doing your MIM qualification, do it before the end of this year, because it's still free. I can't thank you enough. If anybody has any questions, thank you so much, Jay. Thank you so much as well to Amudasal for your very kind comments in the Q&A box. If anybody has any comments or questions, please email myself. You can find me obviously on the EuRA website. All of our panelists are on LinkedIn. You can find us all on LinkedIn. If there's anything that you come away from it, anything, actually, I do want more information, come straight to the EuRA office. If I can't answer the question, Martina most certainly can, as will any of our panelists from today. So really, thank you all so much. Have a terrific weekend. Thanks for your inputs. Thanks to everybody who joined us today. And this will be online on Monday. So obviously I'll send the link out to everybody who attended today, and then we'll send the link out to the rest of the general membership. It will be on our YouTube channel, just search EuRA. Again, Sarah, Susanna, Martina, Stuart, Aideen, thank you so much for today. It was a really terrific session. See you all soon.
Thank you
very much. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
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 Bye.